and a very warm welcome. This is the Big India Today group. Access My India Political Stock Exchange with days to go for the first phase of polling. On the show this afternoon, we will bring you the results of the India Today Access My India National Tracker. Through the month of March, through the month of April, the Access My India team has been polling in 28 states across the country. We will get you the national mood in the country at this moment. I want to tell our viewers that the sample size for the data that you're about to see on your screen is a whopping 1,75,544. These are telephonic interviews conducted in every state, in every constituency. Access My India has been speaking to voters. It's a representative sample of India's demography and geography. And we have a total of 1,75,000 respondents. So it's a very, very comprehensive mood of the nation just at this moment. So let me take on our screen question number 1 on the political stock exchange. Who do people want as next Prime Minister? Let's show you. Since the time we started polling in October 2018, when 46% of the respondents said they wanted Narendra Modi as Prime Minister, it's been increasing by and by to 48% in January, 52% in March. At this moment, just before the first phase of polling, 53% of the respondents in the India Today Access My India Political Stock Exchange Tracker say they want Narendra Modi as Prime Minister. Rahul Gandhi has been consistent in the early 30s, 32, 35, 33, now at 35%. 35% for Rahul Gandhi, 53% for Narendra Modi. That's the net mood of the country when it comes to who people want as next Prime Minister. Let's now come to how people perceive the performance of the central government. Are they satisfied? Are they dissatisfied? Do they think the government's being average? Here is the data on your screen right now. In October 2018, 44% of the respondents told India Today they were satisfied with the Prime Minister's government. That number has now gone up to 48%. The number of people who think the government's performance has been unsatisfactory and are not happy with the government is roughly the same. It was 30% in October 2018, 30% in April 2019. This 30% is most certainly not voting for the government because they're not happy with what the government's doing. However, the number of people who are average, and this to my mind is a very crucial category because these are the people who can really go either ways. They can vote in favor of the government, they can vote against the government. So at this moment, the number of people who seem undecided about which way they're going to go from the 11th of April onwards is about 18%. That's the number of people who think they don't know whether they're happy or unhappy. They're kind of still undecided. So that's the overall tracker. The number of people satisfied is highest. That's always good news for any government. I want to come now to one of the most important questions. It's a very routine question and often not paid as much attention to, but this time in the context of the Balakot airstrikes, in the context of national security becoming a big issue. There's a lot of talk about how national security would be the numero uno issue. It isn't. That's the one big finding coming out of the India Today Access My India Political Stock Exchange All India Tracker. 21% of the respondents tell us across this country that for them unemployment is the number one issue. Drinking water comes in at 20%, cleanliness comes in at 9%, inflation or price rise comes in at 8%, condition of roads comes in at 6%, health comes in at 6%, transportation comes in at 4%, agricultural facilities comes in at 4%, rations come in at 4%, the condition of highways comes in at 3%. The number of people who think airstrikes is what will help them decide which way they want to vote is now in the decimals. It's not even 1%, it's less than 1%. This is very, very crucial because there are lots of people who think, oh, Balakot is a game changer, the airstrikes change everything. Our data in the immediate aftermath of the Balakot airstrikes did suggest that that became the second most important issue in crucial states. However, at this moment, when you look at the all India picture, nobody really mentions airstrikes as being a driver. unemployment, drinking water, cleanliness, those are the crucial issues. Let's get reactions from the guests who are joining us on the India Today Political Stock Exchange. I want to introduce first Amit Malviya, representative of the Bharatiya Janata Party. With us also on this broadcast is Sanjay Kumar, lead cephalogist at CSDS. They had their own poll out, so maybe we can ask Sanjay about how this poll is corresponding with their data findings. Sandeep Shastri, one of India's most respected political analysts, is joining us from Bengaluru. Nilanjan Sarkar is tracking this election very closely, understands data and statistics like very few do, is joining us live from the United States. So welcome to all our guests. We did invite the Congress, but in their wisdom they decided they did not want to join us when, remember, the polls show that they are winning and that they're doing well. From their chief ministerial candidate downwards, everyone shows up one after another. They're very excited. On this broadcast, they decided they didn't want to come. We didn't even tell them what the data was. They just decided for themselves that they didn't want to come. Well, make what you will of their decision not to come, but the show must go on. Sanjay Kumar, overall 53% of the respondents in April 2019 are telling us that they think Prime Minister Narendra Modi deserves another chance. How would you take that number and try and extrapolate from that in terms of his re-election chances?
Most of the data which you have shown doesn't surprise me. Prime Minister Modi's popularity has been higher compared to Rahul Gandhi's popularity, not as of now, but even when you are tracking the poll for the last 6 months, or even if we plot the data for the last 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, it has always been higher with compared to Rahul Gandhi's popularity. Sometimes the gap becomes narrower and sometimes the gap becomes wider. At the moment, there is a 18-20% gap. On the second question of people, a majority of voters want to give this government a second chance, I am not surprised again, because that's the mood of the people, that's the mood of the voters of this country. If they want Narendra Modi to see as the next Prime Minister, they cannot see Modi as a Prime Minister if they don't want to vote for BJP. So I'm not surprised about that. What I am a little surprised about, and I say little surprised about, these issues. Yes, unemployment is the biggest issue. We are looking at different polls, and if you do poll any time in this country, whether it is at this moment or you do poll 10 years ago or 5 months back, every time unemployment is a big concern. But why we see 0% or in decimal, the Balakot or the security issues, is precisely because you have mentioned this is a tracker poll. And this tracker is it would be averages of the data you have been collecting over a period of time, maybe 3, 4, 5 months. It is not the data only which has been collected during last 5, 7 days.
But even when we look at the states where the data came after, that was down to 1 or 2%.
Yes, I agree that it will be just down to 1 or 2%, not more than that. I agree to that.
Okay. So, Amit Malviya, you're making national security the centerpiece of your campaign. And this data suggests that unemployment, cleanliness, drinking water, health, these are big issues, agriculture. On various metrics, airstrikes, Balakot isn't figuring.
Well, Rahul, two things about the data that you put out. One, that it clearly shows that Mr. Modi and the BJP are in pole position, and we have a massive lead over the next rival. And this lead has been widening over the last few months that I've been following your tracker. As far as the issues are concerned, let's not deny the fact that basic livelihood issues are always on people's mind. And I also see the issues that are figured in your tracker as some sort of aspirational ask of the people. And Mr. Modi's government is not about one particular instance. It's been about a great deal of emphasis on improving the lives of people at the bottom of the pyramid. His government has been about running social welfare programs that are targeted at improving the lives of the poor. And therefore, when people expect more of it, we don't see it as a negative connotation, but I see it as positive, yearning amongst the people for better life.
Okay.
Now, for example, if you talk about unemployment, and as Professor Sanjay said, that this would appear in any tracker done at any point in time. But if you go to a farmer and his son and ask him whether he has a job, he would say no, they don't have a job. But if you ask them if they have a livelihood, they say yes, they have a livelihood. Now that distinction and that nuance is very, very fine for most people to figure out. But if it's about unemployment, if you must look at it in terms of opportunities to earn, opportunities to make a better living, and opportunities to leave behind for the next generation. And I think in that sense, it's a perfectly legitimate ask, and our government has been working for it.
Nilanjan Sarkar, 53% in April 2019 telling us they want to give Prime Minister Narendra Modi another chance. If you look at the global experience and global examples, how would you rate Prime Minister Modi's re-election chances if 53% of the respondents in this India Today tracker tell us they want to give Narendra Modi another chance to be Prime Minister?
I mean, I think the betting favorite right now is Narendra Modi. I think that it is likely that, given what we're sort of seeing, it's likely that BJP is ahead of the Congress. Of course, something could happen between now and then. But, a number like 53% is pretty good. It's actually not extraordinary. I think what is most surprising about your poll is actually how steady the numbers are. I think given the kind of media rhetoric we've been hearing, that the BJP is in a lot of trouble at the end of 2018, now they're doing much better, what you see is actually quite a bit of stability. The BJP was never in as much trouble, I think, as people were saying, and I'm not sure that there have been so many long changes and shift of narrative as people are assuming towards.
That's an interesting point you make, and I want to put that question to Sandeep Shastri. Let me just invert the question and say that if the Prime Minister has been steady in the early 50s and the late 40s, that suggests that the BJP and the Prime Minister are not in trouble electorally, but equally can it be taken to suggest, Sandeep Shastri, that there is no major Modi wave? Unlike 2014, which was a wave election, a sweep election, at 53%, would you be prepared to say that this could be a normal election, the incumbents looking good, the incumbents looking strong, looking set for re-election, but nowhere near the kind of majority or the kind of sweep that the BJP enjoyed last time?
Rahul, at this stage, it is impossible to definitely say anything, but I will make 3 points to your question. Point number 1, I think there is no denying the fact that the Prime Minister's popularity is reasonably high. But let's also remember in 2004, Vajpayee's popularity was reasonably high. Point number 2, the Prime Minister's popularity is much higher than the popularity of his government. So in a sense, translating this support for the Prime Minister to the party and to the candidate on the ground is something that we will have to look at. Point number 3, I think there is going to be variation across the 29 states of India. If in 2014 you saw a much more uniform performance, say in South India, this time I think there is going to be significant variations across states, across regions. And that's something we'll have to budget in. My last point, Rahul, you did refer to the Lokniti CSDS poll. And in yesterday's broadcast, we made a very important point that 3 issues, the 10% reservations for the economically backward, Balakot strikes, and of course, the Kisan Yojana. These 3, we have said in our tracker, in our pre-poll, seem to have swayed a little the whole mood in favor of Narendra Modi, especially in the Hindi heartland. And I think that's a factor we will have to budget in. But I would still say we are not talking of a wave across the country. There are variations, and different parts of the country seem to be behaving in significantly different ways.
That's a very crucial point you make, and I want to focus on that. Are different parts of India going to vote differently? Is there a disconnect between the South and the rest of the Indian states? Let me go across to our big wall and show you the regional breakup of the question of who people want as India's next Prime Minister. I'll start with the north of India. In the northern states, there seems to be a strong support for the Prime Minister, in fact, a consolidation of sorts in his support, because the April data for the political stock exchange says that 56% of our respondents in the North Indian states, and they're marked out on that map, want Narendra Modi as Prime Minister once again. That's 3% more than the national average. It's moved from 45% in October to 56% now. In the east of India, 55% of the respondents want Prime Minister Modi in saddle once again. That's moved up 5% from October. Now it's 55% in Bengal, Orissa, and all the northeastern states. Let's come to West. It is in the west of India that the popularity of the Prime Minister is highest. This includes Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Goa. Here, 58% of the respondents want Narendra Modi as Prime Minister once again. What's most important in terms of the region-wise breakup is that in the south of India, the popularity of the Prime Minister is the lowest. It's moved up marginally from October 2018, but it's only 39% now. If you look at Rahul Gandhi's popularity, it's actually going up. So there could be some merit in the Congress strategy that if Rahul Gandhi contests from Wayanad, there would be a southern consolidation, because Rahul Gandhi in the south of India has moved from 40% to 51%, an 11% jump since we started the political stock exchange tracker. An 11% jump is a significant jump. There are 129 seats in the south of India in the 5 southern states, and an 11% jump is quite significant. Prime Minister Narendra Modi only at 39% in the south. So this is the all India Rahul picture. Only 30% back him in the north of India, 32% back RG in east of India, 51% back him in South India, only 30% back him in West India. For the Congress, it would be fantastic if South India is all of India. That's not the case. And remember, to be fair to the BJP and the Prime Minister, the southern states are where the BJP is weak. So therefore, there is no great surprise. But there, it's important that Rahul is consolidating, but the BJP's aim to make massive inroads into Kerala, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, that's not gone as per plan. Here is the Prime Minister's region-wise breakup. In the north of India, 56% want him as Prime Minister. In the east of India, 55% want him as Prime Minister. In the south zone, 39% want him as Prime Minister. That's his weak area, the green states on your map right now. And in west zone, that purple color on your screen, 58% want him. So he's strongest in the west, which is where he comes from. He's strong in the north, which is electorally very significant. He's making inroads in the east. There can be no doubt about it. He's weak in the south, where they hope to do better, but hey, you don't win every match, do you? So I want to go across first to Sandeep Shastri, who's in fact written a piece for India Today's Data Intelligence Unit, and how the south of India will behave differently from the rest of India, because what's very clear in this tracking data is that Rahul Gandhi enjoys an 11% lead over Prime Minister Modi according to the April tracking data. An 11% lead is quite a substantial lead.
Rahul, you're right. In the south, the Congress president does enjoy a significant lead over the Prime Minister. But as you said, South India is South India and not the whole of India. And if you look at the populous north and the populous west, here you notice that Narendra Modi has a 26 to 28% lead over Rahul Gandhi as a prime ministerial choice. It's close to being double in these two regions. And I think that's what is important, and that's what is propelling the national level popularity of the Prime Minister. And that's why I go back to make the point I made in the previous segment. Different parts of India, different regions of India are going to behave differently. In the south, this 12% difference I would attribute to one or two factors. Factor number one, I think in Andhra, the whole message that the BJP has not done enough for the state, which is slightly played out by both the YRS Congress and TDP, seems to have worked. In Tamil Nadu, the support that Stalin has given Rahul Gandhi as the prospective Prime Minister of the alliance seems to have helped the Congress president garner greater support in Tamil Nadu. And of course, in Karnataka, Modi is apparently higher than Rahul Gandhi in terms of popularity, and there the race is very even and very direct.
That's interesting, Sanjay Kumar. What this does suggest is that there could be some logic to Rahul Gandhi wanting to contest from Wayanad, because most of this data comes from the period prior to Rahul Gandhi's announcement. If he's at 51% already, then there could be a bigger jump closer to polling date.
Bigger jump, I suspect whether there will be a bigger jump or not, but you started your question with, is it wise on the part of Rahul Gandhi to contest from the south, one of the southern constituency? You look at the profile of that constituency and it gives a clear signal why Rahul Gandhi is contesting from that constituency. We see this difference in the vote share of BJP across regions. In the southern region, except for Karnataka, where BJP has been able to make inroads. Not only inroads, BJP is very strong in Karnataka. I see a kind of a close contest between BJP on one side and Congress and JDS on the other side. But besides Karnataka, BJP has not been able to make huge inroads in any of the southern states, though I suspect BJP will be able to increase its vote share in almost all the southern states, whether it is Karnataka, whether it is Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra or Telangana.
You know, in any cricket match, or any football match, or any tournament, you don't win every match. That's very, very clear. And when you look at this, Amit Malviya, from the Bharatiya Janata Party's perspective, the fact that your candidate enjoys a huge lead over his nearest rival in 3 major regions of the country, the BJP from its perspective will look at the north, the east and the west and say, yes, we tried in the south, it didn't work out, let's focus on where we are strong.
You know, I look at these numbers very differently, Rahul. Are we striking well in areas that are strong positions for us? And the answer is yes. The nearest rival to us is faring well in southern India, supposedly, and that's the region where the Congress on its own can't come up with anything substantial. You look at Tamil Nadu, the Congress is really wiped out. You look at Karnataka, the JDS Congress combined is likely to get not more than 5 seats. Andhra and Telangana, the Congress is out. You have the TRS and then you have the TDP and the YSR Congress, you know, on the ascendancy in Andhra. You look at Kerala, again, there is left and there is the NDA that is now a force to reckon with. Therefore, I don't think that Rahul Gandhi's higher popularity in southern India will necessarily mean any big gains for the Congress party.
That's a very crucial point you make.
The other point on Rahul Gandhi choosing Wayanad, you know, Professor Sanjay alluded to it, but let me just say it. He chose a constituency where the majority is in a minority. That gives away the kind of politics that Rahul Gandhi is practicing. His hypocrisy of being Chunavi Hindu in the rest of the country, and when it comes to his own seat, which he's chosen because he's not sure of retaining Amethi, is the one where the Hindus are in a minority. That is the reality of why he has gone to southern India, and not because he has great popularity or he can add anything to his party.
What this data suggests very clearly, Nilanjan Sarkar, is that the Bharatiya Janata Party is likely to make major inroads in the east of India. The Prime Minister's popularity in the east zone is almost equal to his popularity in the north. The BJP swept the north in 2014. This time it is likely to do better than it did in the east of India. The data very clearly seems to be suggesting that.
That's right. I think we're to take a look back at sort of the data that you've shown. I think everyone in political circles in the BJP understands the map, which is that the BJP actually wins the vast majority of its seats from a very small number of states, right? So if we were to just take the states of UP, Bihar, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, MP, those 6 states in 2014 gave the BJP 70% of its seats. And it won 90% of the seats it contested in those states. Now, it actually won around 90% of the seats it contested directly against the Congress, right? So one of the things that this map is showing you is that when the BJP is going head-to-head against Congress, it's actually doing quite well. In places in the south, as the others have discussed, where the BJP has not made strong inroads, you know, we don't see that phenomenon. What we're seeing in the east is the BJP replacing the Congress as the major opposition party, right? So in a number of these states, the Congress used to either form government or be the main opposition to a regional party, right? So in Bengal, if you go back a little bit, it's CPM versus Congress. There's been a little bit of tumbling since then. But in Orissa or much of the Northeast, that was the phenomenon. Tripura most recently, we've seen a switch from Congress to BJP. So I think part of the growth you've seen of BJP is it's actually replacing the Congress in these regions, right? And the big question we have is that is the growth of the BJP coming at such an expense to the Congress that the Congress will be rendered quite weak in 2019, or do they have some fight in them left?
So what we're going to do right now is take a very quick break. When we come back with part 2 of our broadcast, we will break this data up further and we will look at where is Rahul Gandhi most popular, which are the seats where he is most popular, which are the states where Prime Minister Modi is most popular, which are the states where Prime Minister Modi is least popular. So we'll have a pro-incumbency and anti-incumbency tracker on a state-wise basis. Some very, very interesting thoughts coming up on where does Prime Minister Modi seem most popular and where is he least popular. We'll tell you about that when we come back. Welcome back. You're with us on the India Today, Access My India Political Stock Exchange, All India Tracker. I want to set up now an incumbency grid, both an anti-incumbency grid and a pro-incumbency grid, to show you which are the states where the Prime Minister is most popular. So let's take that up on our screen right now. Number 1 in the list of states where the Prime Minister is most popular, and I just want to explain what we've done because there should be a comparison between like and like for the most part. We've taken away from this some of the smaller states. So some of the smaller states we'll deal with separately. These are the medium to big states, so more than 5 seats each. Number 1 in that list is Karnataka, which is interesting because in the rest of South of India, the Prime Minister is not so popular, but in Karnataka and of all the states in this tracker, through the period that we've been tracking, the Prime Minister's popularity is highest in the state of Karnataka. Then there is Haryana, where there was a lot of talk of how the state government is quite unpopular, but it doesn't seem to make a difference as far as the central scenario is concerned. Then there is Rajasthan, which again is significant because that's where Vasundhara Raje lost in December. That again could not make much of a difference in the national popularity rankings because Rajasthan comes in at number 3, as also Jharkhand, where there's a strong alliance at the state of the opposition. There's a strong Gathbandhan alliance, the Congress and the JMM and other parties, but it seems that in Jharkhand the Prime Minister's popularity is amongst the highest in the country. And in Orissa again, where the BJP is weak from a previous Lok Sabha election perspective but has made some inroads, the Prime Minister's popularity is 6% higher than the national average. Remember, the national average is 53. These are the states where the popularity of the Prime Minister is the highest: Karnataka, Haryana, Rajasthan, Jharkhand and Odisha. Let me flip this now and show you states where the Prime Minister's popularity is the lowest. Here, it's in Andhra Pradesh that the Prime Minister is least liked, and that's also because Chandrababu Naidu has been carrying out a big campaign saying that the BJP betrayed Andhra Pradesh by not giving them a special status despite having promised this. So that's having some impact very clearly. The Prime Minister's popularity is also low in Kerala, where the BJP would frankly have hoped to do better post the Sabrimala issue, where many in the BJP thought that would be a game changer and would lead to a big jump in Kerala numbers. That doesn't seem to be happening. Kerala quite dislikes the Prime Minister or doesn't really like him very much. If not dislikes, but definitely this is not one of his stronghold areas. Tamil Nadu as well, where the BJP stitched up an alliance with the AIADMK, but this again is not where the Prime Minister is popular. In Tamil Nadu as well, the Prime Minister's popularity is low. Punjab, that's now possibly good news for the Congress, because if you've got an alliance between the Akhalis and the BJP and the Prime Minister's own popularity is not very high, net-net it could suggest that the mood in Punjab is more pro-Congress than it is pro-BJP. Remember, Rahul Gandhi's popularity in Punjab is higher than that of the Prime Minister. Punjab is amongst the only states in the north where RG is in fact ahead of Namo. Then last state is Telangana, where the BJP hope to do well, but this is where the TRS will do quite well in comparison with it will be quite similar to what happened in the assembly elections, the TRS dominating what will happen in Lok Sabha in Telangana as well. So let's look at where the BJP's Prime Ministerial candidate Narendra Modi is happy, and I'm sure Amit Malviya would have been delighted to see Rajasthan on that list, Karnataka on that list, Odisha on that list, Haryana on that list, all crucial states where you hope to do well.
Well, I mean, even if you look at these numbers, the states where the Prime Minister is popular are states where we are actually making big gains. Odisha is a case in point. Haryana, where we had fewer seats last time, is showing quite an uptrend for us. And on the contrary, you have the states where the Prime Minister is not so popular are again states where we are still in infancy and we are growing. So in that sense, it kind of reflects on the organizational strength that we have, on the presence that the party has had historically, and of course, it reflects that there are certain regional parties which probably have a bigger sway in these states, and it's certainly not one alternate national formation that is really the most popular faction there.
Sanjay Kumar, what's very crucial is when you see a state like Orissa amongst the states where the Prime Minister's popularity is highest, it shows you how much work the Bharatiya Janata Party has done on the ground in the last 5 years in taking its message and its party to areas where they weren't strong. So what were earlier areas of weaknesses, remember the BJD and the BJP once ran Orissa, then the BJP ran the state by itself. The Congress was always the principal opponent to the BJD. Now in the last 5 years, the BJP has emerged, captured space for itself and taken the opposition space over.
Rahul, you have already mentioned about Odisha. I won't be surprised if when we look at the counting of results, I won't be surprised if BJP manages to get say 7-8 seats in Odisha. This is the tracker which you are tracking for the last 6 months. But we started getting hints of BJP's upsurge in Odisha maybe an year ago. And when we used to do our own polls, we saw that BJP is coming very strong in Odisha. And this is only because Congress has vacated the space in Odisha, and which has been captured entirely by BJP. But still, I would say there is still a huge gap between number 1 and number 2 in Odisha, and number 1 still remains BJD, and Congress is number 2.
No, but they are also playing a longer game. Yeah. Amit Shah, in some senses, mirrors the philosophy of the Chinese, where he's not looking at it only for the next 5 years. He talks publicly of wanting to rule India for 50 years, but they're building a party for the next 20, 30 years.
They're not only building, I would say they've already built the party structure in Odisha and in West Bengal. We have not talked about West Bengal, but let me include West Bengal as well. So these are the two states where BJP is bound to make huge inroads compared to 2014. BJP's tally is going to go up in 2019 in these two states.
Okay, Nilanjan Sarkar, your sense of the states where the Prime Minister is least popular, it's Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Telangana. Now these are states where the BJP by itself is not very strong. So the good thing is, where you need to score, the Prime Minister is holding firm, looking strong. Where you are hoping to do better by growing, some of those states you haven't made much inroads in.
So I mean, I think you've nailed it on the head. If we were to take again a look at 2014 numbers, you look at West Bengal, Orissa, then undivided Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala, the BJP only won 7% of the seats it contested. Now, what is good news for the BJP is that Orissa has now flipped on the list into which BJP is quite popular, and as Sanjay ji talked about, even West Bengal, we expect the BJP to make severe inroads into. It doesn't look like the BJP has done too much better in the rest of those states. But that still suggests that it's doing much better than what we saw in 2014. On the flip side, I think one of the things that's interesting is that there are certain states that BJP may want to see up on that list that didn't show up in the top, right? So states like Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, which is Prime Minister's home state, I suspect they're right around the average, but you might want a stronger performance given concerns about rural distress and the economy in these kinds of states. So it is kind of interesting that in those states where we expect the Prime Minister to be very, very strong, they're not showing up at the top.
Okay, I want to get a word in from Sandeep Shastri about Karnataka, because the BJP lost in Karnataka. The Prime Minister did well, his campaign was well received, it did make a difference. Sure. But despite not being able to form a government, they emerged as the #1 party but weren't able to form a government. This data suggests in Karnataka, in the Lok Sabha elections, the BJP is well placed.
Rahul, 2 points on Karnataka. One, we all know that in the assembly elections, the turnaround towards the BJP started after the Prime Minister's campaign.
Correct.
Point number 2, in 2014, after electing the Congress government, within a year, you notice in Karnataka, the BJP does a sweep. And our CSDS Lokniti poll clearly shows 6 out of 10 of those who voted for the BJP said If Mr. Modi was not the prime ministerial candidate, we would not have voted for that party. So the Modi factor in Karnataka was clearly visible. So his popularity in Karnataka was something which the BJP is trying to bank on. Rahul, let me make quickly two other points. You will notice in the popular, not very popular list, the other states of South India, leaving out Karnataka, all form and all fall in the second category. In the first category, I would like to focus a little on Odisha, because Odisha, the Prime Minister is popular, but then it's also important to remember Naveen Patnaik is not a Prime Ministerial candidate. So I would endorse what Sanjay ji said a little while ago, that the BJD seems to be the major party in Odisha, and the BJP is replacing increasingly the Congress within the state. So I'm not too sure whether in the Lok Sabha election the BJP can hope to do much better than the BJD. I don't think that will happen. So the popularity of the Prime Minister in Odisha needs to be seen in the context of their local leader not being a candidate for Prime Minister.
I want to show you now states where Rahul Gandhi is most popular, and then we'll follow up that with where Rahul Gandhi is least popular. So let's take that up on our screen right now. Interestingly, in the state where the Congress president is now going to be contesting from is where Rahul Gandhi is most popular nationally. It's in Kerala, where 64% of the respondents say they want Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister. That's the highest popularity Rahul Gandhi enjoys in any part of the country. Number 2 is Tamil Nadu, which is a bit of a mixed bag really, because while with the DMK the Congress is an alliance, so it does help the UPA, the Congress itself is not very strong in Tamil Nadu, is a diminishing force. So this is advantage UPA, not necessarily advantage just the Congress. Then there is Andhra Pradesh. Now this is quite meaningless in my view, because while people may want Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister, if the TDP and the Congress were in partnership, it could have meant something, but when the Congress itself is weak and the battle is between the YSRCP of Jagan Reddy and Chandrababu Naidu's Telugu Desam, then there is really not much to be had from this 59% wanting you to be PM. But if they don't vote for your candidate, it doesn't mean very much, does it? Then there is Telangana, where again it doesn't mean that much, because, and the reason why I say this is because it's the TRS that is strongest. So yes, the Congress may do better than it did in the assembly election where it got completely wiped out, but it doesn't really help because you can't turn that general popularity into seats in this Lok Sabha election. But where it could play a role is Chhattisgarh, where 38% of the respondents want Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister. And remember, in Chhattisgarh, in the assembly election, the Congress won big, winning 65 seats. That's a huge number. So therefore, Rahul Gandhi doing relatively well in Chhattisgarh could lead to the Congress doing better in Chhattisgarh than it did in the last election when the BJP won all but one seat in the state of Chhattisgarh. So this is the ranking of the states where Rahul Gandhi is popular: Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Chhattisgarh. Let's go to where Rahul Gandhi is least popular. Now this is interesting because amongst the states where Rahul Gandhi is least popular is West Bengal, where only 14% want him as PM. Then there is Uttar Pradesh, where his sister is making a big campaign, but it's not having much traction across the state. Only 22% of respondents in Uttar Pradesh want Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister. There is Rajasthan, which is now a bit surprising, because this is what we said at the time of the Rajasthan election, that the anti-incumbency was against Vasundhara Raje. It's not Rahul Gandhi's victory, it's not so much the Congress's victory as much as it is a vote against Vasundhara Raje. The Congress benefited by being the principal opposition. Rahul Gandhi's popularity is rather low in a state where he just formed the government 3 months ago. Then there is Haryana, where Rahul Gandhi's popularity is only 23%, and Orissa, where the Congress at one time was the opponent, now they're being edged out by the Bharatiya Janata Party. Of all those states, Sanjay Kumar, Kerala is most crucial because that's where he's contesting from. There are a fair number of seats, 20, and if he does well, it could help the Congress do better in Kerala.
See, Kerala has only 20 seats. I won't put it in a state which matters a lot for the national politics in terms of number. So yes, Rahul Gandhi's popularity is high in Kerala. We also looked at some states where Rahul Gandhi's popularity is high. It is, say, Telangana, Andhra, and you have rightly mentioned that higher popularity does not mean that Congress is going to win seats in these states, yes, Congress might improve the vote share by a couple of percentages. And because these are the states where none of the regional political leaders are seen as playing a national role in the national politics. So when it is between Modi and Rahul Gandhi, there are sizable number of people who would like Rahul Gandhi to be the Prime Minister, but that doesn't add to Congress prospects for 2019 Lok Sabha elections.
Now, Nilanjan Sarkar, you know, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh are really not very consequential for the Congress, because even if here your popularity is very high, but if on the ground in that particular seat the battle is between TRS and somebody else, or the YSR, CP and the TDP, then it doesn't really help the Congress. If you're not on the ground, people may generally want you to be Prime Minister, but you need to have a leader on the ground who can take that popularity and turn it into votes.
Right. I mean, I think that's right. I think that's some of the difficulty of interpreting this question, right? So you have a state, you have a question where people will naturally gravitate towards either answering Narendra Modi or Rahul Gandhi, but if you're in a state where you're not realistically voting for either of them directly, then it's asking the respondent to do something a little bit different. So it might be that they want Rahul Gandhi, and perhaps that affects their vote choice in some way at the state level, but the connection is a bit tricky. The other just sort of very quick point I would make about these data is that, you know, take a state like West Bengal, and it seems likely that based on the numbers I'm seeing here, that a significant number of people answered neither Narendra Modi nor Rahul Gandhi, right? And so there are probably a number of regional factors and alliance partner factors that are playing here in this question. They're not easy to decode just simply by looking at this answer.
Sure. Now, what's interesting there, Amit Malviya, from the BJP's perspective, is that Uttar Pradesh is amongst the states where Rahul Gandhi's popularity is the lowest, which suggests that all this big campaign about Priyanka Gandhi becoming General Secretary of the East of Uttar Pradesh, etc., hasn't really had any material impact. The battle is between the BJP and the Mahagathbandhan.
Well, that's certainly one of the big takeaways from this. But I think more important than that, Rahul, is state like Rajasthan, where the BJP and the Congress are in direct contest. And I reckon that the gap between the Prime Minister's popularity and that of his next rival in states such as Gujarat, in Madhya Pradesh, and in Chhattisgarh, where we are in direct contest with the Congress, also is a big one. Now, if you look at Rahul Gandhi's popularity percentages, and particularly among the state where he's most popular, Chhattisgarh comes at a low at about 38%. That also tells you that where Prime Minister is faring well, he's well in the mid-50s and higher. But Rahul Gandhi's popularity, except for the outlier of Kerala in your numbers, seem to be tapering off and rather steeply. Therefore, two takeaways from me. One, that wherever the Congress is in direct context with the BJP has a huge lead, and the Prime Minister's popularity is likely to result in big gains. And states where the Congress just won, they are actually in trouble. You look at Chhattisgarh, you look at Rajasthan.
That's a very important point, Sandeep Shastri, because if you look at the electoral history of India, it suggests that states where a particular party does well in an assembly election, and if a Lok Sabha election is held within 6 months of that assembly election, the party that won tends to do better than it did in the assembly election. So that same trend is mirrored. It actually gets accentuated. The party that does well in a state assembly election does better in the Lok Sabha election. So let me give you an example. If you win about 60% of the seats in an assembly election, you're likely to win 85% of the seats in the Lok Sabha election, a 25% jump in the Lok Sabha election, whereas in Rajasthan, it's the Ganga flowing the other way. Ganga ulti beh rahi hai, as they say. It's not happening. So traditional analysis of elections is actually being reversed in a state like Rajasthan.
Rahul, the point you're making, I would accept, I would concede that there is a lot of strength in that argument, but I'll add one point to that. In that 6-month gap when you have a Lok Sabha election after an assembly election, the trend continues, I would say, under one important condition, which is the party which won the assembly election is the front runner nationally in the Lok Sabha election, when that trend is common, you will notice that the party which won the assembly election does well in the Lok Sabha election also. But if a party which did well in an assembly election, within 6 months there is a Lok Sabha election, and that party is not a front runner in the Lok Sabha election, it's not necessary that it actually does well in the assembly election also. And I think examples of this I would quote is Karnataka in 1984-85 and Karnataka in 2013 and 14. Or even Delhi, some people would quote in terms of what happened with regard to the BJP and AAP. So your point is valid when the winner of the assembly election is the front runner when you come to the Lok Sabha election.
Okay.
Second quick point, Rahul, I think the point which others have made, that whenever the Congress and BJP is in a direct competition, Rahul's support is a little low. And last point, wherever the support for Rahul Gandhi is much higher, especially if you take states like Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, it really does not make sense. And I repeat the point I made earlier. In Tamil Nadu, if Rahul Gandhi is popular as a prime ministerial choice, he should thank Stalin for that, who was one of the few leaders who endorsed him as prime minister.
Oh, absolutely. And while there will be some benefit to the DMK, there isn't that much of a benefit to the Congress itself. And in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, it doesn't really matter. That's like the captain of Zimbabwe being very popular because he is important, but if the Zimbabwe team itself is not strong in the World Cup, how does that help in Telangana and in Andhra Pradesh? So there's a real problem there. If in Uttar Pradesh the Prime Minister's personal popularity is driving the BJP, that's consequential given the number of seats and the BJP's presence on the ground. But if the battle is between Jagan Reddy and Chandrababu Naidu and people generally want Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister, that doesn't help the conversion of that popularity into actual seats. You're watching the India Today Group Access My India Political Stock Exchange. We'll focus now on the issue of the minimum income guarantee program, Rahul Gandhi's promise of Nyay, delivering 72,000 rupees into the bank account of the poorest of the poor. This announcement was first made on the 25th of February. Between then and now, how many people are aware of the fact that this is what Rahul Gandhi has promised? So let's take that question first on our screen. Just a very basic question. Are you aware of Nyay? 52% say yes, they've heard of Rahul Gandhi's idea, which is not that bad. It's been about a week plus. 52% already say they know of the promise of Nyay. That's quite a high level of response. 44% say no, they haven't heard of Nyay. So 52% saying yes, 44% saying no, and then 4% are saying they don't know. Let's now come to the next more important question. If you say you know, then now tell us, do you think Rahul Gandhi can implement Nyay? Does the Congress have the wherewithal? Do you have the belief that Rahul Gandhi can implement Nyay? And this is the total universe. So I'm not asking those who said they've heard of Nyay, we're asking the entire universe. Out of that, 32% say yes, Rahul Gandhi can implement Nyay. Now this is very crucial because last week the figure was 26%. When we polled last week, just 3 days after the announcement of the program, 26% said yes, they've heard of Nyay and they believe Rahul Gandhi can deliver. That number has now gone up to 31%. So a 5% jump in a matter of a week. 51% say no, they don't think Rahul Gandhi can deliver on Nyay. 17% don't know. So that is crucial. But the most important data there, 31% say they think Rahul Gandhi can deliver. Sanjay Kumar in Congress's vote share was about 19.6%, which means that you've got at least 11% more people thinking that Rahul Gandhi can deliver on Nyay. That's a fairly decent number.
It's a decent number, but thinking that Rahul Gandhi or Congress can deliver on what they are making a promise, thinking about that it would be able to deliver, and finally those thinking people turning their vote away from BJP or from regional party and shifting to Congress, it's a different story. When you make promises, people have all kinds of things to ponder about, and some people still believe that yes, Congress may be able to do this. But look at the large number of people who don't buy this argument, don't believe that Congress is in a position to deliver what they are promising at the moment.
I want to show you now one very crucial question which we asked. So okay, one is the point that Sanjay Kumar makes, that you generally think that the Congress can deliver. Will this affect the way that you vote? So we added one question to the tracker, which is an additional question over last week. Do you believe that this will impact the way you vote? 28% say yes. Amit Malviya, the Congress has largely run a listless campaign. Prime Minister Modi has been setting the agenda, running away with the narrative. But if 28% of the respondents tell us in about 10 days of the announcement of this program that this will impact the way they vote, this is the one issue that's generated the kind of traction nothing else the opposition has done so far.
Rahul, I quite think that your numbers have an underlying story, which is about lack of credibility as far as Rahul Gandhi is concerned. If 52% of the people have heard about it and just 32% think that he can deliver it of the entire universe.
Last time they got 19.6% of the vote. That's 11% more than they got last time.
Yeah, but votes. That's not the entire universe of voters that
So when we ask them, does this impact how you vote? 28% say yes.
I'm coming to that. The fact is that Rahul Gandhi's credibility is on test basis what they've done in Punjab, what they've done in Karnataka, what they've done in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, and now Chhattisgarh as well. The fact is that in all these states, all the promises that they made, including all sorts of waivers that they spoke about, none of that has been delivered. If you go to any of these states, and the stories today in the information age travel much, much faster, even those who are likely to be beneficiaries of this program know that they haven't thought through it. The economic implications that it has for the country has not been thought through. And the other very important point is they have a government and they have Mr. Modi as their Prime Minister, who's actually delivered a lot more than what Rahul Gandhi
Okay, Nilanjan Sarkar, how do you read these numbers? To me, the most important number is the 28% that say that Nyaya will impact how they vote. It doesn't mean that they will vote for Congress, but it will impact how they vote. And that's the one weapon that Rahul Gandhi now has in his arsenal that is showing some traction. The Rafale, as far as elections is concerned, was a dud missile. It's Nyaya, which is actually a precision-guided ammunition, which is having some response.
No, I absolutely agree. I, like Amitji, believe that there is a narrative here, but the narrative that I see, if I look across all the numbers we've presented so far, is that voters are still quite concerned about economic issues. And that is probably one reason why this is having traction. I mean, let me just, I was introduced as a data person, but let me sort of give a field observation. I spent quite a bit of time in Madhya Pradesh during the last state election. And I think internally a lot of us thought Congress was divided, BJP was going to have a harder time, but looked like they were going to see their way through. And the last couple of weeks, the Hawa changed. Economic factors started mattering. And economics tends to be a late-breaking variable for voters, just a week or two before you go to the polls often. And if there's something that should give the BJP sleepless nights, it is exactly this idea that on certain issues, the Congress may be seen as credible in sort of dealing with economic distress. I think it's an open question as to whether it's enough for the Congress, but at least it does show that on this policy point, there is something there for the Congress that can be used as a counterweight to Modi's popularity and BJP's overall popularity.
That's an important point you make, and that's the one question, frankly, that we won't have an answer to, because the Election Commission guidelines ban polls after the first phase. This is amongst the last tracking data that we'll have. We'll have one more set on Monday, but beyond that, we can't really do polling. So now, the point, Sandeep Shastri, that Nilanjan refers to is crucial. What can change between when we stop polling and the elections as they roll out? Can the idea of Nyaya cause greater damage? Because if 28% already telling us about a week, after about 10 days of the announcement of this scheme for the first time, that this impacts their voting behavior, can that increase as the days go on? How do you see that variable play out?
Rahul, I will start with the last line of our CSDS Lokniti article in the Hindu today, where we say, has the Congress promised something too late in the day? The release in the manifesto, the whole question of Nyaya, it is catching attention, but has the Congress come up with this at a time when the initiative in critical parts of India has already been seized by the BJP? And can they really change that narrative in the north, in the west? That I think is an important question. The second important question I think here is, it's not so much about a promise you make, it's not so much about a scheme that you outline, it is more about how much do the people trust your capacities to be able to implement that. Being a party in the opposition today, there would be a slew of promises the Congress would make. But I think at the end of the day, in this campaign, how much will they be able to actually convince the voter about that? And I go back to our last line in the Hindu today, have they promised a little too late in the day to actually make an impact on the voter in this election?
No, so what's the answer? That's a question. You are the Pandit. My job to ask questions, your job to answer them, sir. Is the promise being made too late? Would they have benefited more if they promised earlier?
In fact, my answer, okay, I'll give it. Rahul, I'll give you the answer, I think. I think the scheme has been launched a little late in the day, and it may be difficult for the Congress to gain traction on this issue. And I think in the north and west, clearly, they have conceded the space to the BJP, and it's a little late in the day to try and make amends to it.
Sanjay Kumar, that's where undecided voters become crucial, and what CSDS's own data seems to suggest is that about 14% of the voters make up their mind on the last day and about 13% in the last 48 hours. So there's about 30% of the voters who are going to decide just before campaign, just a few days before campaign or on the day of the polling, who they want to vote for. Is that vote up in the air, or they've also more or less decided where they want to go?
The CSDS data on this issue also suggests that there is a decline in the proportion of voters who make up their mind on the last couple of days. I suspect in this election the proportion will go down further. People have already made up their mind. This voter, they would get influenced by various kinds of campaign which political parties are going to make. But I think a reasonable assessment would be they would also get divided in favor of different political parties, more or less in proportion to the party's vote share among different groups of voters. So I don't see them, these 30% or maybe 25%, going in favor of one political party in a big way. Yes, in 2014, we saw a clear trend. BJP's lead over Congress was highest among those who made up their mind in the last couple of days, and BJP's lead over Congress was less among those who made up their mind.
That's the voter who's catching the hawa.
Yeah,
he wants to see where the hawa is going, and that's why Amit Malviya's job is very important, to try and build some hawa in favor of his party.
The psyche of the Indian voter is nobody wants to take side of the losers.
Nobody wants to be on the losing side. We give up our cricket team when they start losing. Kya kar rahe, inko kuch nahi aata. If you give up your cricket team, you obviously want to be on the side of the winner.
You would be surprised. You go to a constituency after the results have been announced, and you ask people whom did you vote for, and you will get almost 65-70% people saying that they have voted for the winning candidate, though he may have got only 32% votes.
Interesting. I want to show you how Rahul Gandhi is now trying to maximize the use of Nyay, or is he? So I'll show you the word cloud. I'm just going to walk across and show that to you. This is a thrust analysis and a word cloud done by the India Today Speech Analytica desk of the Rahul Gandhi speech in Maharashtra, in Chandrapur in Maharashtra this afternoon, where he spoke of farmers and the whole idea of helping Kisans about 3 times. He spoke of his Nyay program 4 times. He spoke of Modi promising the 15 lakh rupees and not delivering 8 times. He spoke of the Prime Minister 7 times. He made fun of the Chowkidar idea 3 times, and he spoke of loan waivers thrice. So his focus very clearly pointing out the 15 lakh rupees that the BJP never gave, pushing through the idea of Nyay, 72,000 rupees he's speaking of again and again. He's also making fun of Ambani, saying that, the Prime Minister is linked with Ambani. He's not giving up on the idea of Rafale, but pushing through the minimum income guarantee scheme in the way that he best can. So this is just the way it kept building over time. The rally in Chandrapur, the Prime Minister being attacked on his association with Ambani. He's hitting out on the Rafale scheme. He's not giving up on that, and he's reminding people of the promise of 15 lakh rupees, that the BJP promised this but they never delivered. I will deliver. And his central thrust is the idea of ensuring that 72,000 rupees reach into everyone's account. So he will push this home. belatedly, Sandeep Shastri, and this is where, you know, one questions Rahul Gandhi's political instinct. Belatedly, he's got the message that this is where he needs to focus on, drive agrarian distress, talk about rural India, talk about the farmer, talk about Nyay. But for a long part in this campaign, he was talking about issues which weren't connecting.
You're right, Rahul. The other Rahul has not focused on what he should have. Right from 2014, the point has been made that the base of the Congress party were the economically deprived. As we have constantly said, in 2014, the BJP support base was a social funnel, broad at the top and narrow at the base. And in the case of the Congress, it was reverse. So what the Congress has actually not done early in the campaign is focusing on those who have traditionally voted for their party and given them that which those people expected from the party. And Nyay should have come much earlier in their campaign. Their whole focus on welfare should have come much earlier in the campaign. And I think the Congress this time has lost out on a very, very, very important opportunity.
No, but Nilanjan Sarkar, that really brings out more starkly the point that on the one side in this election, you've got an army which is running the most finessed campaign we've seen. Good, bad, you can hate their campaign, you can like their campaign. In what they believe will help them deliver, they are doing the most that can be done. And on the other side, you've got an army which has certain points they can score, certain blows they can deliver, but they're not being able to maximize their blows. So you've got a really, really sharp army that will capture and capitalize on every opportunity versus an army that's making multiple blunders.
I think that's absolutely correct. I mean, I think that when we look at the difference between the BJP and the Congress, and earlier in the show I talked about just what BJP's strike rate has been against the Congress in the recent past. A lot of that is due to organizational quality, the difference in organizational quality. The BJP has a stronger party organization than the Congress. And for a long time, the regional parties had been taking advantage of that against the Congress in some of these states the BJP is expanding into. And now the BJP has realized that it can take over the Congress's sort of vote share in many of these places where it was playing very much the same sort of game. So I absolutely agree. You know, I think that the Congress has a creaky decision-making body between, you know, internally. Many of the decisions are made quite slowly. Many of the alliance decisions, you can see how herky-jerky it's been, how late some of the announcements have been, how unsteady some of the announcements have been. And that just speaks to the sort of organizational capacity and the strength of the organizational capacity of the BJP vis-a-vis the Congress.
And you've built it. So in some senses, Amit Malviya, you know, it's an unfair contest. A contest between like the Australian team at its peak versus a team that is somehow snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Even when they can do something to hurt you, they're squandering the opportunity.
But our job is to win the contest, not to ensure that it's an exciting one, and we're focused on that. You know, coming to the point on this entire last-minute announcement that the Congress is making and hoping that it will then, let me take you back to 2013-14. If you remember, at that point in time also, Congress had put out this entire food security bill promise, and they positioned it as like a panacea for everything. But they were routed out comprehensively. You know, people of this country are very intelligent.
No, that's not necessarily correct. One second, Amit Malviya, they promised in Chhattisgarh that they will increase the MSP for paddy, the price at which the government procures, and that definitely had a role to play. It wouldn't have changed the election result, but it gave them a bigger lead and they won some more than 2/3 of the seats in the state.
Well, Rahul, I'm quite aware of what happened in Chhattisgarh, but that was not an isolated issue on which the election was won or lost. You forget that we'd been in government for 15 years in a state like Chhattisgarh, which was traditionally seen as a Congress bastion. If you remember, in the combined Madhya Pradesh, they used to win big in what is now Chhattisgarh. But having said that, the point that I was making is that people of this country are not naive. They don't get taken in by these last-minute promises, and particularly when your track record and your ability to deliver on what you're saying is questionable. And having said that, the Congress and Rahul Gandhi in particular have exhausted all their political capital, if he had any, in the Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh elections. Today people know that he merely promises, does not deliver. He resorts to lies. He's completely dumped, for example, his pet issue of Rafale because he knows it's not going anywhere.
Sandeep Shastri, the one thing that I hear people say very often is that we are just a couple of days away from phase 1. Is baar wo mahal nahi hai. It's not as if they're pro someone or anti someone. They just don't see the election as much in your face as the 2014 election. Why do you think that's the case? One, of course, is the fact that the Election Commission has got strict norms on publicity material about the kind of noise you can make, the rallies that you can take out and the roadshows. The other is that 2014 was a special election because people wanted to vote the UPA out. This time, Prime Minister Modi has been in power for 5 years. But why is it that when you travel, people say, is baar waisa wala mahal nahi, dikhta nahi hai chunav?
I think the point we have been stressing from the beginning, there is no national wave, there is no national mood or one similar mood across the country. But if you go from region to region, you will see that there is a flavor of a region. There is a trend in a region. There is a hawa in a region. And there is talk in a particular region. And that talk of a particular region is very different from the talk in another region. So it's not that there is any national sentiment that is visibly there with the same intensity across the country. The sentiment varies. The sentiment varies from region to region, from state to state, and that, I think, the moment we are able to capture that, we are able to look at where the election is likely to head towards.
I want to say on this.
Okay, so your sense, Sanjay Kumar, of the same question, will this be an election where voting percentages come down because there isn't that much interest, or do you believe just because there's no visible campaigning happening doesn't mean people aren't interested?
I have a slightly different explanation to why we don't see this when we talk to the people कि वो बात नहीं है, वो मज़ा नहीं है, चुनाव दिख नहीं रहा है. Because even when those voters who are making up their mind to vote for Congress, they are not very enthusiastic because they don't see the possibility, they don't see a real possibility of Congress emerging as an alternative. So when they are trying to vote in the different constituencies, they are looking at local combination, they are looking at candidates, but there is no one big sense of, even within the state, that there is an upsurge of Congress. So people are voting for Congress in different constituency, but voting as a, like, just kind of local consideration. When we look at the BJP voters, I don't see a huge enthusiasm even among the BJP voters. Some of the BJP voters are very enthusiastic, they are the core supporters, but that constitutes roughly about 23-24% votes. But the add-on vote which BJP got in 2014 election was a very enthusiastic voter. They were attracted towards BJP in 2014. Even in this election, they all might, or sizable number of them might vote for BJP, but not as enthusiastic as they were in 2014. They will vote for BJP in 2019 because they also don't see an alternative. That's why we don't see that contest going on the ground.
So there's some very interesting markers we'll be looking at next. What's the mood amongst the Dalits of the country? What's the mood amongst the young voters of the country? What's the mood amongst farmers in this country? What's the mood amongst urban Indians? So we look at how certain communities, which are very, very crucial to determining what the big picture on the 23rd of May will look like. What's the mood in these communities? We look at that data very closely when we come back with part B. We now go deep into communities and castes that will determine who ultimately ends up winning over the next 36 odd days. Let's start by looking at the most significant OBC communities. Other backward castes, when taken together, here the Prime Minister's popularity is 15% more than his all India popularity. At this moment, nationally, all OBC castes taken together as an aggregate, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the favourite of 68% of the other backward castes. This is the coalition that Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah are trying to stitch, bring the OBC castes together. This, on the 23rd of May, will be one of the big headlines, the coming together of the OBC castes if the BJP were to do well. Amongst the OBCs, Rahul Gandhi's popularity is only at 22%. Let's now look at the upper caste, the general castes. Here, the Prime Minister's popularity is even higher now. One, this is generally a vote bank of the Bharatiya Janata Party and has been the longest time. But even here, the popularity of the Prime Minister is 20% more than his national popularity. 73% of upper caste voters in the country said they want Narendra Modi as Prime Minister once again. Rahul Gandhi's popularity was only 17%. So amongst OBCs and amongst upper caste, the mood of the country is very clear. They're voting and rooting very strongly for the Bharatiya Janata Party and for Prime Minister Modi. But there are other communities where the story is very different. I'll start with the Dalits. Now, this is part of the RSS's core idea of one temple, one village, one well, where they want to bring OBCs together. This India Today tracker shows that Rahul Gandhi is 4% ahead of Narendra Modi amongst the Dalits when it comes to the question of who should be India's next Prime Minister. This is very, very substantial as an electoral insight, and that you're seeing this here on India Today. Not a very big gap, not the kind of lead that the Prime Minister has amongst OBCs or general categories, but given the kind of projects that the BJP and the RSS have been running, this is not good news. They won't like this at all. The fact that amongst the Dalits in the country at this time, no matter what the reason may be, it's not one reason very clearly, whether it's Una, Rohit, Vemula, all of it taken together, has Rahul Gandhi in the lead right now. Narendra Modi trails Rahul Gandhi when it comes to preferred choice for next PM amongst the country's scheduled castes. I want to go now to tribals. Now remember, the RSS and the BJP trying to make major inroads in tribal areas. Here as well, the Prime Minister's popularity is just 3% more than that of Rahul Gandhi. Now see what the situation was like in January 2019, where there is a 17% gap. Rahul Gandhi at that time 32, Narendra Modi at 49. Amongst the tribals, Rahul Gandhi's popularity has gone up 10% in the last 4 months. Narendra Modi's popularity in those 10 months has come down by 4%. Rahul Gandhi's popularity going up by 10% in 4 months is quite substantial. Modi in the lead. Amongst the Muslims, it is along expected lines. Nobody really thinks of the Muslims as being big voters of the BJP. Rahul Gandhi went up from 57% to 64% now. 64% of the Muslims in our 1,75,000 sample said they want Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister. 19% of the Muslims, and that's interesting. So it's not as if the entire Muslim community hates the BJP or the Prime Minister. 19% of the Muslims we polled told our polling agency CSDS that they wanted Narendra Modi as Prime Minister. It's been pretty consistent from 17 to 19, but 19% is 1 in 5 Muslims. That's not a bad number at all. So that's the overall breakup, and I want to discuss this now with our guests. I'll start with Sanjay Kumar. So we're seeing a big upper caste consolidation for the BJP. We're seeing a big general OBC caste consolidation for the Prime Minister. Is that enough to see the BJP through?
Yes, because we also need to look at the proportion of these caste community among the total population. We have already seen that Prime Minister Modi's popularity is roughly 15% higher compared to his average popularity among the OBCs. And we should not forget that OBCs are roughly 45 to 48% of India's population. If we look at the upper caste, which is roughly 15-16% of India's population, even among them, Modi's popularity is 20% higher compared to the average popularity, and the gap between Rahul Gandhi and Prime Minister Modi is very large. Only among Dalits and Adivasis, even among them, there is a lead of Prime Minister Modi over Rahul Gandhi, but it's very narrow, 2 or 3%. So I think the consolidation of upper caste and OBC is enough to sail BJP through in 2019 and making Prime Minister Modi a very popular leader.
Nilanjan Sarkar, it's about caste at the end of the day. Everyone can say what they want. When the camera is shut, everybody accepts it's ultimately caste that helps you win. And if you look at just caste coalitions amongst the numerically significant OBCs and amongst the upper caste, the Prime Minister leads by a mile. And where Rahul Gandhi leads, he leads by a small margin, except amongst Muslims, where his gap is quite big, but they've never been voters of the BJP. So amongst his supporters, the Prime Minister is really doing very strongly. Amongst Dalits and amongst tribals, it's a tight fight.
That's right. I think that if we look at some of the most recent announcements by the BJP and perhaps what has happened in the country recently, it's not surprising that there is growing caste polarization, which is essentially what this data are showing. I think one interesting point I want to bring up, and I don't know, I think perhaps there's more detail in the data, but what does this sort of say about UP, right? Where we have a large number of constituents, as your own analysis has shown, where there are a large number of Yadavs, Muslims, Dalits in the same constituency. And if there is growing caste polarization, given that there's an SP-BSP alliance, it brings to fore some very interesting questions about exactly how some of these states shake out.
Okay, Amit Malviya, we can talk about how OBCs and general castes are rooting for your party, but I want to talk about Dalits. Given the effort the RSS is making, the effort that the BJP is making, you would have wanted to be ahead of Rahul Gandhi amongst the Dalits. In fact, the data shows that Rahul Gandhi is 4% ahead. That's not good news for the BJP.
Okay, let me just go one sect at a time. You look at the upper caste, I think the 10% reservation for the economically weaker sections in the general category seems to be playing, other than the fact that this is traditionally a vote bank that's been with us. You talk about the OBC Commission, which was pending for almost 7 decades, and our government made it a reality. And I think that has also helped consolidate our OBC support base in a big manner. As far as the Dalit community and the tribals are concerned, the gap of our popularity and otherwise seems to be narrow. We are definitely looking at it very closely. There are several initiatives that have been launched. Prime Minister Modi himself is committed to the idea of social empowerment. We've seen that the kind of impetus that he's put on, say, reaching out to the Safai Karamcharis post the Prayag Kumbh Mela that happened. So, whether it is honoring Baba Sahib Ambedkar, building the Panch Tirth, all of that has been done in a very large measure. The maximum number of Dalit MPs and MLAs today are from the Bharatiya Janata Party. So I'm quite sure that in the run-up to the election, a lot of this outreach would happen that would narrow in the gap. The other very important point that I want to make is that while you've shown Rahul Gandhi marginally ahead of us in, say, the Dalit population is concerned, but the Congress party is today not the sole repository of the Dalit vote. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, it's Mayawati who believes that the vote is with her. Whatever is not with her is with the BJP in a big way. Similarly, you look at Maharashtra, which is a large Dalit population. Again, the Congress is not in a position to sort of make any inroads. In fact, it is the RPI, which is our ally, and some others who have the larger chunk of the Dalit vote. So in that sense, while the gap is something that we will look at very closely and work towards sort of bridging it, I also take solace in the fact that it's not a reflective on how they are going to vote.
That's a good point that Amit Malviya makes, that in communities where Rahul Gandhi's overall popularity is high, on the ground, in Uttar Pradesh, for example, a lot of Dalit vote will go towards the Mahagathbandhan because of the BSP. So they may think Rahul Gandhi is a better prime ministerial candidate than Narendra Modi, but in the end, it doesn't help the Congress in this election. Whereas amongst the communities that are voting for the Prime Minister and for the BJP, the consolidation is so strong that all that vote, you know, 70% consolidation amongst the upper caste, 73%, that's pretty phenomenal. That's almost like the consolidation against the BJP amongst the Muslims.
Yes.
Sandeep Shastri.
How is that a question for me?
Sandeep Shastri.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. You're right, Rahul, and I think we should make 2 points in the beginning. Support for somebody as Prime Minister need not necessarily mean transfer of vote to that person or that party. And just as you said, while Dalits may be supporting Rahul Gandhi more than Modi, it does not necessarily mean that they vote for the Congress. Similarly, support among the OBCs in larger numbers for Modi need not necessarily mean support for the party, because going back to UP's example, the Yadav vote is also a critical vote in Uttar Pradesh, which the Samajwadi Party is banking on. But Rahul, 2 more points is what I thought I would make on this issue based on the discussion that has been going on till now. When you are talking of the OBCs, it's a large category. It includes dominant castes and non-dominant castes, and it's interesting, if we do a more detailed breakup of that, where does the support for Mr. Modi seem to be much more? And the fact that throughout the campaign of 2014 and later, Mr. Modi kept making the point that he represents the other backward castes is something seen here in the data that you are showing. Now, the support for the Congress among the Dalits being more, the support for Mr. Rahul Gandhi being more than for Modi among the Dalits is, I think, a reflection of the voting trend that you saw since 2014. That's very clearly there. And let's remember also in 2014, the CSDS Lokniti data showed that 8% of the Muslims voted for the BJP. And if this data shows 19% prefer Modi as the Prime Minister, it reflects a similar trend. A final point on what Malviya ji just now said, I think we should be a little cautious in saying that a party has larger number of Dalit MLAs or Dalit MPs or tribal MLAs or tribal MPs, because we must note that in reserved constituencies it's increasingly showing that the winning candidate does not necessarily get a majority of the Dalit vote, but wins also because of the support of other communities which are present in a reserved constituency. So we need to look at survey data in terms of who votes for whom, and simply because a party wins a larger number of reserved seats does not necessarily mean that that party has support among the people who belong to that particular reserved community.
Sure, and if the BJP has the most number of MPs and MLAs in this country, then they'll have maximum representatives from all communities except Muslims, because they just have the numbers. Now, let's just move to men and women. And is there a difference? Is Rahul Gandhi's popularity higher amongst women? What do men think of Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi? Let's take that question up on our screen right now. When it comes to the Prime Minister's popularity, in January 2019, 47% of the respondents said they wanted Narendra Modi as Prime Minister. This is the men in our sample. That has now gone up to 54. So that's a 7% jump over 4 months. That's quite substantial. 7% jump in favor of Prime Minister Narendra Modi over the last 4 months. Rahul Gandhi's popularity amongst men has actually come down from 37 to 34. Amongst women, Narendra Modi's popularity has gone up from 49 to 52. So in January it was 49, now it's 52%. Amongst, for Rahul Gandhi, his popularity was 34% in January. That's now come up to 37. So he is more popular amongst women. But usually we had, for example, the Kennedy effect. Young, good-looking man having much higher popularity amongst women. It doesn't really hold.
No, really this data suggests that there is no party has any specific advantage between men and women, because Prime Minister Modi's popularity as a preferred candidate for the next Prime Minister on an average is for 53%, 53-54%. Even among men and women it's more or less the same. So there is hardly any, we don't see men and women as a category of voting blocks in Indian elections. At least this data indicates.
No, because we've seen in the past, there have been occasions in India and internationally when, for example, Jayalalitha really appealed to women, and many more women in the Tamil Nadu Assembly election voted for AIADMK because of Jayalalitha than men did, and that skewed the results. What this shows, Nilanjan Sarkar, is that it's roughly even. Popularity is pretty much the same regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, in favor and against both candidates.
Right. I mean, I want to sort of I want to sort of reiterate what Sanjay ji said here, that it's not obvious why men and women should want to vote differently in an election. There might be certain gender differences in preferences, but broadly, everyone cares about the economy, everybody cares about national security, that's not a male issue or a female issue. And to the extent that those are the most important issues in the electorate, as your own survey shows, it's not obvious that there should be a major gender difference in preference.
Okay,
so I would just stick with that.
Okay, let's now come to urban versus rural and see if in rural India, there is a great, because that's the one thing that you hear the opposition allege very often, that rural India is against the BJP, that there's a rural versus urban divide. Is that really the case? So let's look at the Prime Minister's popularity in rural India, which is pretty much mirroring his popularity pan-India. 53% say they want him as Prime Minister all across the country. 52% say they want him as Prime Minister in rural India. So it's pretty much the same. Rahul Gandhi is at 36% in rural India. Let's now come to urban India and look at the same numbers for urban India. In urban India, the Prime Minister's popularity is slightly higher than his pan-India popularity, and that is along expected lines as well, because the BJP is more popular in urban areas than it is in rural areas. But there again, and I think Sandeep Shastri, that point comes through, if somebody thinks that rural India doesn't like the Prime Minister, or that there is huge dislike for Narendra Modi and the BJP in rural India, this data doesn't support that. His popularity in rural India is roughly the same as his popularity in urban India. In urban India, it's higher, but it's not like in rural India, his popularity is down in the dumps.
Rahul, you're right. I think we must make this distinction between a state assembly election and a national election. When you're talking of a state election like we saw in Gujarat, like we saw in Madhya Pradesh, like we saw in Rajasthan or Chhattisgarh, local issues came to the fore and became important, and there issues like farmer distress became a critical factor. That's why we said in Gujarat, rural Gujarat voted with the Congress and urban Gujarat voted with the BJP. When you're talking of a national election, I suspect the nature of issues which drive electoral choice are very different, and therefore you do not see that much difference emerging between the support for Narendra Modi as Prime Minister and Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister between urban and rural areas. And this distinction, I think, is important for us to keep in mind.
Okay, let's look at young voters, those between 18 and 25. Here, the Prime Minister's popularity has actually grown in the last 4 months. The Prime Minister's popularity amongst voters in the age group of 18 to 25 was 47% in January. That's now gone up to 52%. Rahul Gandhi was at 37%. He stays at 37%. So the Prime Minister's popularity amongst young voters is actually going up. There was a concern about whether the Prime Minister's popularity amongst young voters is going down if he hasn't been able to fulfill their promises. This data suggests not just is it holding firm, Amit Malviya, his popularity amongst first-time voters has actually gone up.
Well, Rahul, looking at all the data that you put out, it only indicates that all the marketing can't help you sell a bad product. And despite all the launches and relaunches that Rahul Gandhi has had over almost a decade now, he's trailing almost in every category that you looked at. One would have idly thought that he'd probably do better with young voters or with more upwardly mobile women or men for that matter, but he seems to have lost out on every count. Performance matters, integrity matters, your credibility matters, and that's what makes Mr. Modi a popular, likable political leader today in the country. He stands head and shoulders above anyone else, and I think that is really what is going to define how this election is going to be. People are going to make a choice basis whether you are looking at Mr. Modi as your next Prime Minister again or not.
Sanjay Kumar, no sense of disenchantment amongst young voters coming out in this PSE data?
It is not coming out in PSE data, but I must also bring to the notice of the viewers that in the 2014, we actually noticed that Prime Minister's popularity was much higher compared to his average popularity among the young voters.
Okay.
If this is the data, then I see some decline in the popularity of Narendra Modi among the young voters, because the popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is more or less equal if we look at his average popularity and his popularity among the young voters.
No, but that's like saying last time he won by an innings defeat, this time he hasn't won by an innings defeat, he's just won the match.
His popularity is spread across all caste community, rural, urban, men, women, young, old, that's true, but the lead which he had over Rahul Gandhi and with over other leaders among the young voters, I think he has lost some of that edge among the young voters.
You know, I want to look now at education levels and how that impacts the popularity of both these candidates, and it's very interesting that the gap between the Prime Minister and Rahul Gandhi is narrowest amongst illiterate voters. When illiterate voters were asked, who do you want as next Prime Minister? In January 2019, 42% said they wanted Narendra Modi as Prime Minister. Rahul Gandhi was at 44%. Now he's at 43%. The Prime Minister is at 47%. There's only a 4% gap. This becomes more consequential when you see, and I move straight up to postgraduates, and I show you the level of popularity of these two candidates amongst postgraduates. There, only 28% of the postgraduates say they want Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister, whereas 51% of the postgraduates want Narendra Modi as Prime Minister. So net-net, it's only Sandeep Shastri amongst the illiterates that the gap between Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi comes down to 3%, amongst other levels of education, the gap is far wider.
Now, this again is a continuation of the 2014 trend, where you saw among the less educated there was greater support for the Congress, among the more educated there was more support for the BJP, and that same trend continues. I'll add a point here, Rahul. Last time around in 2014, we saw among first-time voters, Mr. Modi had something like a 6 percentage point advantage. And this time, if we go by the data that you are showing, that advantage is today not there, because the support among first-time voters is exactly the same as his overall support. That 6 percentage point gap which was there last time, advantage which was there last time, is not there. And again, with regard to illiterate voters, you will notice the support for Mr. Modi is 6 percentage points below the national average of support for him, which again I think is a continuation of the trend that you saw happening from 2014.
I want to show you one last data point, and this is of some concern to the Bharatiya Janata Party amongst farmers. When you compare the popularity of Narendra Modi with Rahul Gandhi, the gap is 7%. Remember, the Prime Minister's popularity nationally is an average of 53%. Amongst farmers, it's only 47%, so 6% less amongst farmers. Rahul Gandhi is at 40%, which is a jump over his national popularity. There's only a 7% gap. And remember, given the number of farmers in India, given that there's so many seats that are dominated by rural areas, it means that in rural areas, the fight in this Lok Sabha election, Amit Malviya, would be a tighter fight amongst the farmers than in other income categories and other professions.
Well, that's an argument you could make looking at it, but still, despite all the talk about the imagined agrarian distress that we've been hearing, let me take you back to Madhya Pradesh, for example. Mandsaur was touted as the epicenter of agrarian distress. The BJP won 7 out of 8 assembly in the Mandsaur region. Now, therefore, we must learn to distinguish between what is a narrative and what is a reality. And the fact is that any government is assessed by what they have done and not necessarily by the unsolved issues that remain to be addressed.
Okay.
Because it's a 5-year term. And the farmers today in our country, and particularly those in rural area, know that the kind of work that has happened, whether it is Ujjwala or it is the Swachh Bharat, which entailed building about 10 crore toilets, or ensuring that rural roads were built, or ensuring that MSP was provided, and the offtake of agricultural products under the MSP was significantly higher than what the UPA did. Whether it was the sugarcane farmer issue, where last 7 years backlog was paid off by the BJP government in Uttar Pradesh. All of these things are going to be a factor when people make their decisions.
Okay, I'm going to leave that over here. We've had a very interesting conversation. We've looked at factors which are very consequential for this election in a manner that nobody else is really doing. You get a deeper insight into the mood amongst different income categories, in different geographies, in different demographies, which is very crucial to understanding how India is going to vote. I want to thank Sanjay Kumar for joining us. I want to thank Nilanjan Sarkar for joining us all the way from the United States. I want to thank Sandeep Shastri as well, and Amit Malviya here in the studio. And as I said earlier, the Congress decided not to join us for this broadcast, which is rather unfortunate because they hadn't even seen the data. And when the polls were actually showing the Congress do well, we remember from Ashok Gehlot to Sachin Pilot, from Jyotiraditya Scindia to Kamal Nath, everyone was lining up to be on TV. So what is it that they knew about our data which we didn't, or which they hadn't even seen? We really leave it to you to wonder about. Come in, whether you win, whether you lose, whether data supports you or not. That's really the way it ought to be. What we're going to do over this weekend, we're not taking a break. No one's taking a break right now. We're in the middle of a big election. Is actually work with some really sharp statisticians with this India Today, Access My India, political stock exchange data, and we will do some probability analysis. When we come back on Monday, we will show you what is the probability of the Prime Minister and the BJP getting a full majority, what is the probability of the NDA getting a majority, what is the probability of the NDA falling short of 250, falling short of 200, what's the possibility of the Mahagathbandhan being able to form a government. So some very, very interesting, very nuanced, very finessed probability analysis coming up on the India Today Group political stock exchange, not just So what we're going to do is, we're not just going to get Access My India to do it. We'll take this as raw data, give it to some of the sharpest mathematicians and statisticians in this country, and we will get you a very detailed probability analysis when we come back with the India Today Group Political Stock Exchange on Monday, which will be right ahead of the first phase of polling. Stay with us, and I hope you'll join us for that. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.